let's move on to culture. Our picks for the
Let's do
year,
it.
for the upcoming
Let's
year in the
do it.
world of, movies, politics, television, everything else.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you right now, my picks are very hopeful. My picks are where I
Okay.
hope that the
Me
culture
too.
goes.
Me
My
too.
picks are what I want to happen. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. Some of them might be long shots, but I'm going to bet on it. My
Okay.
pick for
Okay.
my pick for MVP of the year, where the culture's going, and I think I don't know. This is like I don't love this pick, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like It's like I think it's going to be like a DIY movement year. I think people are
Okay.
I think it's happening in the world of like podcasts, and I think that's going to move towards other areas. I think people are going to be funding their own like television shows. I think people are going to be funding their own movies. I think people are going to be funding their own, like artists are going to be funding their own tours, their own galleries, things like that. It's going to be moving away
Okay.
from trying to get like corporate money and corporate sponsorships and things like that and doing it yourself, like getting fan funding,
Yeah. Yeah.
self-funding projects. I think it's going to move from just like kind of like podcasts and things like that to other areas of culture, of politics, small grassroots donation, kind of movements and things like that. Less less big money, more like actual like hands in the dirt, doing it
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting it from the mud.
Yeah, all over. That's my pick
Yeah.
for MVP.
I like that. I like that. And I hope you're right. I mean, we're at an area of like such hyper commercialization that like that would seem like the only logical route.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
and being somebody who like I live in LA, I'm in like trying to be in the entertainment industry. I'm trying to like write TV shows, get hired for TV. Like,
Yeah.
they're only like big studios only want things that are guaranteed money. They see movies,
Right.
they see movies as investments. They don't see them as movies.
Right.
They're like
Right.
this is
Yeah.
our
It's not
this is
art.
our first quarter, this is our first quarter profits putting out this movie. So it has to be as big as possible. They only want existing IP. They only want things that they know are, with existing proven talent. And I think people who are like on the come up are going to have to like just kind of like make their own things and like maybe turn down opportunities to do those bigger things so they can actually make the art they want to, or make something that breaks through and then get that bag from whatever from whoever wants to give it to them to
Yeah.
direct the next uh He-Man movie or whatever they do next.
Right, right, right. Oh God, no, you're totally right. I hope and I hope to see that pan out successfully. I think the trend will happen regardless, but I hope it's successful for a lot of people because the world needs to see more actual artists as opposed to the entertainment business side of things.
Yeah. What do you got? What's your MVP for the upcoming year?
MVP for the culture, very hopeful for me. I took Stacey Abrams.
Okay.
And I say that because one, she's got a gubernatorial race to win, but uh, I also want to see her kind of emerge. And she started to really back in 2020 emerge as a national force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I think she's one of the few substantive rising stars on the left side. Not to get too political, but
Ooh, I'm
yeah, I think it's
interested.
her year.
I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on one of my picks later in this
Oh
round,
boy. Okay. Okay.
because I was already pretty interested. Now I'm very interested because I may be disconnected and I may not be as knowledgeable as I want to. Well, I'm definitely not as knowledgeable as I want to be, but I have a pick that I'm interested in hearing your thing on.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna
I'm
go
excited.
moving on to defensive player of the year in the culture. I think it's over. I think they're going to be on the defensive. I think it's over. I think people are going to be sick of grifters. I think people who are I think people who are out there I think people who are out there like, right-wing grifters, people who are out there just like riling up people, trying to get them trying to trying to get people riled up and full of hate and like just like
Yeah.
and just like profiting off that, I think it's over. I think these people are going to be, I think they're going to be exposed. I think Alex Jones owing $1 billion to the parents of Sandy Hook
Woo!
is
Yeah.
the first domino to fall in that.
There's
And
a
I
lot of
think
people that are
that
nervous right
I
now.
think that the chickens are coming home to roost for all these grifters out there who've been profiting off their bullshit for too long.
I like that pick a lot. It's a little redundant because you already picked Kanye as your defensive player of the year, but
Yeah,
I think you're right.
he's jumping
And
on a sinking ship.
for sure, and like really, he's torpedoing a sinking ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time for people to get some of their comeuppance. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. What do you got?
Yeah, honestly, I think we're in similar lanes. My defensive player of the year pick is Apathy.
Oh, nice. I like that.
I don't think going into 2023, you know, knowing what we know now after what I like to refer to as the second great awakening in 2020, knowing what we know now coupled with where the world economy will be
Yeah.
for
Uh-huh.
a lot of 2023, I don't think people literally can afford to be apathetic anymore. I think
Nice.
people
I like that.
will really have to pay attention and be forced to engage with things.
I have a lot of picks that kind of are aligned with that in one way or another. So I enjoy that pick. My pick for sixth man of the year is, it kind of is in line with my MVP of the year, but I think it's low key. I think it's coming up. I think it's a story. I think people are sick of like being I have the death of Disney. I think
Ooh.
people, I think it's more indie, the rise of more like independent things. And this is kind of the same thing that I picked for MVP. I'm realizing that now, but
I
it's
like
like
it targeted at Disney though. I
I
like
think
that.
people are sick of like, Marvel, Disney just being like force fed. Like, you go to the movies and there's like the only thing in the whole movie theater is like the new Marvel movie. I think people
Yeah.
are going to be sick of that. I think there's going to be a backlash. I think that, these movies are going to stop making as much money as they always have. And I think that like it's gotta end soon, right? It's gotta, like, I think it's already on the underground. I think like, mainstream people still love it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously it's still
Yeah.
making, billions of dollars, these movies, but I think it's bubbling up from like, you know, the fringes of, people who want something different. And I think it's gonna be bubble
Well,
over soon.
yeah, because I think what the pandemic did to us is like just change how we consume new media.
Mm-hmm.
And so even once people feel 100% comfortable in public again, or as close to that as we'll ever get again, uh I don't know that you'll see the same, like, yeah, let's all rally around the new Spider-Man movie that's coming out. I think companies will have to engineer more ways to get people out to theaters and like make things more event driven, and you'll have to start getting more creative with your content to get people
Yeah.
out.
Nice. What do you got for the sixth man of the year? The story on the fringes that's gonna make
Ooh,
noise.
I mean, I'm just really old man yelling at a cloud with this right now, but Reason and Logic, sixth man of the year. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
You think it's been on the back burner? It's been coming off the bench?
It's I think it's been buried on the bench for a while now. Again, I think the theme of a lot of my points is that we're
Comeback
reaching this
player of the
like,
year?
well, yeah, we're reaching like this super
Yeah.
super super partisan area, and there's
Mhm.
really only one direction that you can kind of come back. We can't get any more partisan than we are right now. We've got to actually start listening to reason and logic and start kind of moving back towards some level of sanity. I've realized that
Interesting.
these motions are a little
Yeah.
45ian, but uh yeah, we can't we can't be this done for this long.
Yeah. that goes nicely into my most improved player, I think. And
Okay. Okay.
I think it's the progressive left. I think the progressive left is going to take a step forward in the
I hope so.
mainstream in 2023. I think it's going to stop being as much of a, it's not a joke. It's like, it's not, some people think it's a joke. Some people
Mhm.
make jokes of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think people are going to realize that it's actually like beneficial and it's actually going to help people. And like we talked about on the show last week, it's like when you call something the Affordable Care Act instead of Obamacare, I think people are going to come to terms with like, oh, like a government that like actually helps you and builds infrastructure and like can provide you with healthcare and Medicare, like all these
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
people have been like programmed to hate and be against since like the Reagan era, basically, or before
Yeah.
Nixon, Reagan, you know what I mean? Like just being
Mhm.
programmed that these things are like communist and communist is bad. I
Right.
think people are gonna wake up and see that like there are actual like validity in this, and I think there's going to be some movement towards that from more people. Again,
Yeah.
hopeful as all hell.
Well, listen, if apathy does, go out, then it's going to push a lot more people that are typically on the fringe, and maybe some folks that are apathetic, not because they don't care, but apathetic because they feel so defeated. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it'll give some of those folks a little more hope.
Hmm.
You started to see it around 2020 elections. There was a little more hope, and I think with each progressive, no pun intended, election, you'll see a little more of that hope.
Yeah. Who do you got for most improved
Most improved. So I
for
went
the
far
cult?
left of the of the seriousness of the conversation right now. Uh,
Good. We need a little levity.
but it's all on me. The city of Philadelphia,
Okay.
most
I
improved.
got them a little later in my culture, my
I'm
culture
taking
categories.
yeah, I'm taking the city of Philadelphia as
They're
most
most
improved.
improved. I'll tell you right now, I got them coming out of the East. They're my pick for the champions of the East of culture. I'm going to jump ahead a category and just tell you that right now. We can talk about Philly. It's a homer pick, but I mean, Phillies, it's their time in sports right now.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh the Philly uh comedians coming out of Philly are making big waves right now in all areas of things.
Huge,
The
huge.
number one comedy on television right now, Abbott Elementary, set in Philly.
Longest running live sitcom, also
Oh,
set in
Always Sunny in
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like yeah, there's tons. Yeah, I think it's our time. But we did talk about, the gentrification of the culture, but that does still say that Philly is really permeating things. So
Yeah, I think it's also like it's a big city and it doesn't have that like stink of New York. And when I say stink of New York, I mean like New York has like the like it's always going to be like too expensive. It's always going to
yeah,
be like
yeah,
it's always going to have that like weird like class label on New York, and like Philly is always like Philly's never going to get that sort of like pretentiousness about itself. It's always going to be like
no,
it's always
it's
going to
gonna
be
be
a
expensive, but
it'll get
it's
more expensive. Every
it,
city is because
it's the
nobody wants
last
like
affordable one.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I would totally agree. I talked to, some of my colleagues that are living around the rest of the country, and Philly is definitely still the last affordable major
Major
city.
city. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a nice pick for most improved. I have them coming out of the East. We can skip my
nice.
East pick later, but here's my coach of the year is my political figure that I was
Okay.
interested in hearing your thoughts about, and it goes lockstep in line with my theory that progressive left politics are going to hit more mainstream people, and it's John Fetterman. He's the he's the guy. He's bringing Bernie politics in the body of an offensive lineman. In he looks like somebody. He looks like somebody that like some idiot that I grew up with in Pennsylvania would be like, I like that guy and listen to him just because he looks like how he looks. And that's
Yeah,
been his
yeah,
thing the whole time, ever since he entered any sort of public sphere. That's been the thing. Like,
yeah.
oh, he looks like the everyman. He looks like a guy who's gonna like spit like terrible racist rhetoric or whatever, or you know, and then he's like,
Yeah.
like coming out with like progressive politics. So that's my pick. I think that's like he's like the avatar of where I think things are going, or what I hope
Okay.
like gets across to like people in the middle of nowhere who need to learn that these policies are going to help them out.
Yeah, people that that need to realize that poverty should be the unifying thing that they're clinging to with other groups. Like
Oh
once
yeah.
poor people realize that like we're all poor before we're whatever else we
Mm-hmm.
identify as,
Yeah.
um
But they're doing a good
that's
job keeping us
yeah,
from doing that.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, Fetterman's an interesting choice. Is this, I assume, is what you were interested in my
Yeah,
my
cause
reaction of?
you're actually in Pennsylvania. I'm like looking at it from
Yeah,
afar and just seeing his like, you know, Instagram ads and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
his
So yeah,
hilarious Instagram posts because he's going against like one of the funniest candidates to ever make fun
God,
of.
my God. Yeah, no, the Fetterman campaign is killing it on social media. Um, I was actually just talking with my girlfriend about this a little earlier. I am not as much voting for John Fetterman as I am
Okay.
voting against Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't agree with him. I agree
Hmm.
with a lot of John Fetterman, if not, I'd say probably 95% of his platform. I
Yeah.
agree with. Um, having been a
But he
little
just doesn't
closer,
move you the same way.
yeah, I'm not as excited. And you made some great points, and I think that does have like broad appeal that's needed for that progressive movement. So I think you're right in that. I just
Broad
don't know that I'm
appeal
his
meaning a
target demo.
big burly white man.
Yeah, I'll yeah, I don't think I am John Fetterman's target demo, and I'm okay with that.
I mean, if a guy is like agreeing with things that like AOC and like like
Yeah,
Bernie are saying, who people just like hate because they like are different than them, like
yeah.
they're like those people are never gonna listen to Bernie, or they're never gonna listen to AOC or Omar, like
No, he's a white male.
yeah,
He's a cis hetero white male. Um,
sometimes we are we're good for something.
yeah, I mean, because you think about all the rising stars on the left that would fit that category. There's not many. Like I guess Beto, and that's really it. That
Yeah.
like comes to top of mind. That's young and rising. Not to say that Fetterman's all that young either, but um, I am concerned about him from a health standpoint. I will
Yeah.
say that.
I mean, it's valid.
But the most
The man
interesting
did have a
thing
stroke. So,
he did. The most interesting I'll say is that living here, I don't see many like there's ads for Dr. Oz, but I feel like there's just more uh anti-left ads,
hmm.
and like it's just genuinely saying, or generally saying like, oh yeah, the
Is it
left
just
is bad, this is what's happening.
is it just because like Dr. Oz is like giving up winning the Philadelphia area and he's just like concentrating on like Scranton, or
That's
where
my
I'm from?
guess.
Like, yeah, he's just trying to get people out like in central Pennsylvania because he knows he's not going to win Philly anyway.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Let's
That's my
get
guess.
back to back picks from you, Keenan. Who's your coach of the year and who's your East Coast champ?
Ooh, coach of the year. I took a little liberty with this one. Coach of the year, the Federal Reserve. Uh,
Interesting.
because I think this year's 2023 is going to be interesting from an inflation standpoint, from an economy standpoint, and I think we're going to look to the government to, depending on the outcome of the 22 midterms, we're going to look to the government to make a lot of key decisions,
Yeah.
both in the short term and the long term. And I think the Fed is going to play a huge part in a lot of that policy setting and decision
Okay.
making. Yeah.
Nice. And
Um,
who's your East Coast champ?
East Coast champ for the culture. That's a tough one. I hadn't thought about this one yet. So just based on the conversation that we've had and things like that, I am going to say that yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually gonna contradict you a little bit from an earlier point.
Okay.
Um, I think New York is back.
Oh yeah.
I think New
Where
York
did
is
they
back.
go? Where'd they go?
Well, the people left. New York stayed. The
Oh
people left.
yeah. Oh, you mean
And
like
then
after
people,
COVID? Like
yeah,
people are going back to COVID
yeah,
and
like
ever
yeah,
since
like
COVID.
I think New York kind of back to
Yeah,
being
New
what it
York is
was.
back in the way that like everybody who moved there during COVID and got those like cheap rent rates can't afford it anymore. So now rich people have to move back. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
exactly,
Regular
exactly.
people have to leave. They're all going to go to Philly, and now you can only live in New York if you're rich, or if you have been living there for so long
Or
that
yeah, or
yeah, or if you
if you're
never
stuck.
left. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna. We're are you good talking about New York? You have any?
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
want to
No,
make sure you're done.
that's no, no,
I don't
no.
want
That's
to. I
enough.
don't want to cut you short. That's all
That's
they
all the
deserve.
compliments I'll give for
Excellent.
New York.
I'm giving my West Coast pick to it. Also falls in line with these progressive movements, but I think it's going to be the state government of California setting precedents in terms of like giving people universal health care, um, giving people like extra stim. I just got a $350 check last week from the state of California because they're just like, hey, shit's expensive. Here's some money, and I think California's
Hmm.
been I think it's been like a laughing stock for things like that in the past. I think people have been
Mhm.
like, "Oh, hippy dippy California," and they're like,
Yeah,
all this thing. And I think people are gonna take a look at it and be like, "Wait, they're actually like helping people. They're actually like, oh, there's free healthcare in California and it works, and it like, you know what I mean,
right,
stuff like
right.
that." And that's what I think is going to move forward in 2023. The
Interesting,
government of
interesting.
California.
The government of California. That's a big entity. Like
I don't know
if we're
why.
talking
I don't know why I'm
champions.
putting my. I don't know why I'm putting my faith in this, but I realize
Wow.
it's a big thing to kind of put my faith into. But I think it's gonna, I think it's gonna pay off. They're
Wow.
not my champ. They're my West Coast. They're my number one thing from the West
Okay,
Coast.
they're coming out of the West. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. Um, that's an interesting choice. What I am going to say is and walk with me here, because I'm going to start talking and eventually land at a point.
All right.
I I think you're seeing a lot of like we think of Silicon Valley, right? Um, I think you're starting to see a lot of companies leaving the greater Bay Area, Silicon Valley area because it's just becoming untenable to really
Yeah.
to headquarters like a startup there. So a lot of the innovators are leaving for different places. Um, some are going like Texas, Austin's getting a huge boom, things like that. So what I think you may see as your West Coast champion, and as much as it pains me to say this, is back to the corporate behemoth, um, between you know Amazon, Microsoft, and the top of the West Coast, uh, and then the companies that can now afford to stay uh,
Okay.
in Silicon Valley. There's just so much consolidation that's happening. This is nothing new, but I think that we'll continue winning next
Yeah.
year from gobbling up some of those innovators.
It's less hopeful than some of our other picks.
Some of them got to be real. That's one to bet on, guys.
But you know what? It leads me into my champion of the year. Overall
Okay.
champion of the year.
Mhm.
It's for the people. It's the sense of community. I feel like people are going to start coming back to, you know, relying on each other, helping each other. I think people are going to be like gonna start like living more like in their communities. I think people are starting to yearn for it.
Like friendship as a concept?
Yeah, like friendship as a concept. That's always my
Hmm.
champ. That's my champ of
Yeah.
every year. People
Yeah.
helping each other out. People like living communally.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
idea of like, you know, yeah, that kind of
No,
shit.
I think you're onto something, and I definitely hope that you're right in that. It is interesting when you look at just the idea of like these major cities and things like that, and you look at like some of the planning around them, and there was always planning for these like big communal squares and things like that, and kind of as religion has fallen out of favor, there's been like less and less, or fewer and fewer
Yeah.
rather,
Mm-hmm.
places to like collectively get to. um that
Yeah,
leads
public
me
meeting places like that.
yeah
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah that leads me into my championship pick, actually.
Yeah.
um the metaverse.
Ooh, okay. So it's like community, but on a computer.
Yeah, I think people will continue coming together. It may not necessarily be physically,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think people will continue coming together. I look back at like the rise of when like gaming first went online, like popular systems going online, not PC gaming, things like that. But you felt like you were disconnected because everyone's just in their room playing games, but like you're talking to people in places that you never would have been otherwise. It was
Yeah,
like the new chat room. And bring together the folks on the metaverse, I think is going to actually do something positive. There's also going to be a lot of bad that comes with it,
of course.
like a ton of bad that comes with
Yeah.
it. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think it will help to bring people together as well.
Nice. I'm gonna give you my rookie of the year very quickly. Guess what? It's stretch four, baby. Stretch four. Rookie of the year in the culture.
I'll take that. I'll take. You know what? I'm going to co-sign that.
Yeah.